Yes, yes,
Hey,
yes.
once again, you have fallen straight into Hella Vella and found yourself at another Lawless Interview. And today
Yay.
we're going to be interviewing author William Tchatchou, who writes on, like all of my guests, who writes on the new Kindle Vella serial reading platform from Amazon. So welcome, William. How you doing?
I'm okay. This is actually the right time in the morning for me to do things. So, usually
Excellent.
I'd be at work, but today I am home petting my
Excellent.
dogs. So, the
Excellent.
usual.
And so I'm going to go ahead and get started, same way I do with all my guests, and ask you, when did you get started writing?
Oh God. Actually, 2 years ago is when I decided I'm gonna write a book for a novel. Because I used to write, well, four little shorts here, little shorts there, like a chapter here or something, like an intro idea, and then I was, abandoned after a while. But 2 years ago, like during like just before we realized the pandemic was like real, I
Mhm.
was um I was literally drunk at my local anime convention, MagFest, and me and a couple friends were really drunk, and we were like joking, like what would happen if like people go to anime conventions regardless of how sick they are, like Comic Con and stuff like that, regardless of how sick they are, they could be missing a leg on Friday or just try to go to like a convention on Saturday. Like, what if like COVID turns out to turn people into zombies? What would happen if they come to the convention anyway?
Oh my God.
So we were joking about that. I was like, you know what? Let me write a book about that real quick, and that's pretty much how I got started. Well,
So do you have
yeah.
a book out on Kindle or did you?
Oh yes, 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 yes. So my first published book is The Hotel of Madness. It's my little proud little baby, and it's currently on Kindle. So
What's it
anyone
called?
interested? Hotel of Madness.
Hotel of Madness. All right.
Yep.
And is it about the pandemic turning everybody into zombies?
So I found that initial premise kind of boring. So actually, it was hard. There's like a couple of dead ends. Me trying to start from that idea, and then eventually I decided to do a more supernatural zombie apocalypse.
Okay.
So that's where that idea came from. So
Okay. So then you wrote Hotel of Madness. And then what happened? Did you read about Kindle Vella coming? You couldn't have gotten out another book before Vella came around, could you? Did you?
so I've been talking to my publisher. My publisher, my editor. So I've been talking to my editor. I'm pretty close with her, and I was in the middle of punching up one of my short stories, A Day in October, which is basically it takes the same character in A Hotel of Madness and it puts them in a smaller, less apocalyptic setting. Um, I was punching that up because I wrote that like a couple of years ago, back when I used to host used to have a WordPress. So I used to have a WordPress. I used to put like stuff on like blog. I used to blog and write like chapters of stuff on WordPress, and that was one of my only finished stories on WordPress. I took it out of WordPress, turning it into a book. And I was talking to her, and she was like, "Man, you should probably be on Vella," because she already has like several stuff on Vella already. Kate Sager, you know her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she already has like several stuff on Vella. She's like, "Yeah, you should be on Vella." I'm like, I don't know if I should. I can do the serialized stuff. Like, you kind of already do a serialized structure anyway. You might as well just, publish on there. I was like, I mean, nah, I don't feel like it. I don't think I can keep up with the schedule and make a chapter a week and stuff like that. And
What schedule, man? These
I
people,
know
some of these people, I've interviewed people who will do 3 episodes in a week and then I haven't done an episode in a month. I mean, it, it's
yeah,
they're all over the place out there. I mean, there's some kind of playbook for serial story writers, but ain't a single son bitch I've interviewed read that thing.
yeah.
So
Apparently, there is a playbook. You're supposed to like at least do like one chapter a week. When I was obsessed about something, like my short story A Day in October, I wrote that in 5 days. I literally wrote a chapter a day
Mhm.
for some insane reason. I don't know what. I don't know what I was on, but for some reason I was literally writing it every day until it was done, and then from there I just couldn't add any more chapters. So that I feel like that was a natural ending point. But
Mhm. But that's a day in October.
yeah,
Now, did you bring that to Vella, or did you put that out as a novella?
I put that out as a novella. Unfortunately, I should have put it on novella. I think people will liked it. But after that, I was like, man, maybe I should put some stuff on Vela.
Now you know what time it is, right? All right.
So I wanted to experiment with different genres because I was in the middle of writing the second book,
Mm-hmm.
and it was going well, and going at a brisk pace. Um, but I felt like I had just enough time to write something different that I felt like I should expand my horizons because I'm mostly like a horror writer, a little bit of urban fantasy, get a lot of inspirations from like it's like H.P. Lovecraft meets Supernatural, if that's like a good description. But I get a little inspiration from that, and a big love of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I have the same type of story act structure. A lot of you can find a lot of those stories. I kind of borrow that from my own. So going through the thought process of what other genres I like to write in. So we were talking about light RPGs. I'm not the biggest fan of the genre, but I do appreciate some books that are in the genre. So I was like, man, maybe I should write my own light RPG. Was a horror twist, of course, and
That'd be good, I
that's
think.
what she said. Yeah. So
Now, I don't know how you would make a lit RPG with a horror twist. Well, I guess you could write a lit RPG about a horror game.
my idea was just to pretty much base the RPG that you're in off of Dark Souls, or right now Elden Ring. Actually, Elden Ring is actually closer to Black Coffin than
Is that
Dark
a
Souls
game?
is. Yeah, Elden Ring is the game.
Okay. Yeah, you can base it on any game.
Yeah, so I based mine off of Dark Souls and the implied horror that's in like D&D. So there are some like aspects of D&D that makes it more I guess crunchy, as people say. And
Crunchy meaning you can bite into it.
it means that there are some aspects it's not like this fun, you know, whatever happens fantasy. There are some elements where it's like generally you make a mistake and then you die horribly for it.
I
So
see.
it's
That's
kind of like yeah, it's like what people like Game of Thrones for. Like if you were to look at people who really like Game of Thrones, they like the fact that these real people make mistakes and they get punished for it, as opposed to this the plot figuring out what they should, plot kind of bailing them out every single time. So that's kind of like the crunchy aspect of D&D. Though most people play it for the, whatever it goes fantasy. Um, and of course, Dark Souls is known for being a really hard, unforgiving video game with a multiplayer aspect. So it was like, what if someone made an MMO with I guess with the RPG aspects of it being very similar to a Dark Souls or Elden Ring or Bloodborne aspect of it.
how do they get in
And
the game?
so in Black Coffin, they got in the game through a YouTube video.
Is Black Coffin a game?
Oh, Black Coffin is not a game. It's something that kind of just came up as a means of transportation. So my first Vellas series is Black Coffin. And in Black Coffin, you have the main character who's really into like ghost stories,
Okay, so
especially
now
like
we're
this.
talking about your Vella.
Yeah.
Listen, we were supposed to blow a horn or something for that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, everybody, we're talking about his Vella. Is this the first one? This is the first Vella.
This is the first one. I'm trying to go through the progression of it all. I wanted a concept.
Kate Seeger tells you, hey, this is good shit. Come do this.
Yes.
And decide, okay, I think I will.
I think I will.
And so you came out with Black Coffin.
Yeah.
How many episodes did you come out with?
Oh,
before you started saying, hey, I got episodes.
Oh, wow. So I did it in true serial fashion. I had 0 episodes.
You gotta have one.
Yeah, so I literally had I literally wrote one chapter, which is basically the introduction of the character, and then getting transported to the world. And I was like, huh, okay, I like this. This is how I usually write things. So my writing process is I plan nothing. I am complete pantser. I have no
Outline.
outline. I don't outline at all.
No
It's a
plan.
pointless. I never outline, I never plan. I have like a rough idea of the story beats I would like to hit, but if I don't hit those beats and I hit something else, because I feel like if you make like an outline, you're like a slave to the outline. Like you kind of restrict yourself to the box that you made. And if I wrote every story like that, then I don't think that it would be a really good story. If I wrote like my first story, Day in October, not Day in October, but Hotel of Madness, off of the outline I would have made for it, it would have been a completely different story. It would have been probably just a straight zombie apocalypse at an anime convention, right?
Mm.
I didn't feel like that would have been a good story, even though it would have been a well constructed story, but it would have been a good story. It wouldn't have been like an authentic story to what um I like to do.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm sitting here running back through my mind thinking of all the writers I've spoken to, and I gotta say, Pantsers outnumber the planners 2-1.
It's easier to be a pantser in some regard, and also harder. I would say
It is.
that
And then there's the crossovers,
yeah,
people who just had to have a little something to even start, but they don't follow it. They go back and it's like, holy shit, their outline and their story went like this right here, but they needed it to begin. They
yeah.
needed it for that confidence to begin, you know. Just felt
I
like
go
they
by
needed
the
it.
first chapter. If the
Like a
first
control
chapter,
freak, like a
yeah,
TARDIS.
yeah, exactly. Like some people like that. Like my wife is a planner. My wife loves planning things, and she won't write anything unless she outlines it. And every time I talk to her about something book related or writing something or creating something, it's like, oh, you should probably make a plan. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that.
So
Like,
how many episodes do you have in Black Coffin currently?
so it's 16 episodes and it's completed.
Oh, it's complete in 16 episodes.
Yeah, I don't
Wonderful.
really. My big thing is that I never really wrote I don't really consider myself a big like novel person. Like write 100K. This one's probably like 50.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's probably 50 if I were to count it, but maybe less than that. I'm not a big like, oh, it got to be like 200K for it to be a proper novel. Like, nah, I mean, short and sweet is kind of my thing. Like, one of my favorite book series usually completes itself with under 50K chapters. Between 50 to 60K chapters is a good length for me. Even though I did grow up with like larger books, everyone grew up with the Harry Potter books, stupid Aragon books, various like large, grander than life fantasy novels that take up like all your time.
But
Um,
they took up tons of books too. I mean,
yeah.
Rowling wrote that sucker, and I know on my bookshelf it took up a good long
Oh
wad of
no,
room.
those are those are always going to be remembered as classics. They probably people's kids will be reading Harry Potter. But like for me personally, Kay Applegate was my favorite like author when I was a kid.
Who? Kate
Kay
Applegate?
Kay Applegate. She wrote the Animal series.
Oh,
Yeah, her books were like this small.
I see. So
And
you read a lot as a kid?
yeah, I read a lot as a kid. I was really into again, because of my interest in horror. Horror doesn't really go past 60K, except for like guys like Stephen King and stuff like The Stand and stuff like that. But normally horror doesn't really.
They remade The Stand again. This is
Oh,
like the third time they've made The Stand as a
it's a
television show.
it's a classic story, and I felt that because of the pandemic, they feel like, hey, we have the green light to go ahead and milk that cash real quick.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I think
that's
we can do
probably
this again without even giving Stephen King any money because it's on contract. We made the movie. Surely we get
exactly.
he doesn't need any more money.
I mean, I can't even imagine a movie because the book is so long.
Oh, the book is out. Oh my God. Oh my God. Did you read it?
Oh yeah,
I read it.
I
I
read
read
it.
it. And
I
boy,
got
when you,
obsessed with it for a minute, and it's a punishing read. A lot of Stephen King stuff is a punishing read.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Stephen King likes to take you by the back of your head and wham you up against the desk. Wham. Did you get
Yeah,
it that time? Wham. Did you get it? I said it eight different ways. Bam. Did you get it?
I mean, he's a master of writing the
He
mundane.
is.
Like he loves writing the mundane. I hate writing the mundane. That's my weakness as a writer. I don't like writing mundane. He does. He takes the mundane and he sprinkles a little bit of supernatural or a
He's
little bit of horror.
yeah, he
And
makes it
then
strange.
yeah, and then eventually you go from that little bit to suddenly a whole lot, and then it goes back to being mundane again. And then he goes a whole lot, and it goes back to being mundane again. And that's
Mm.
kind of the pattern of a lot of his novels. Some novels, it's a basically straight up slice of life story to the last 20 pages.
Wow, I can't think of one of his that's like that. Maybe Stand By Me. Maybe Stand By Me.
I
Yeah.
think the closest thing he's gone to like wall to wall action, stuff like his short stories like Cujo.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you want like you want Stephen King at his scariest, you want to read his short stuff. The
Yeah.
Raft, Cujo.
Yeah.
There's just one scary story where she had a couple of like tourists stuck on like an Amazon ruin in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
and these vines are trying to kill people, and it like you had like maybe 2 chapters of things being relatively normal, and then suddenly it goes into like madness and despair.
Oh boy.
So yeah, short stories are always better for horror, in my opinion, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Black Coffin was your first. I want to continue talking about your Vellas. So what's next? What was
Oh,
next?
so I was writing Black Coffin, um, getting really into the whole IRPG thing, and it was actually relatively exhausting to write a IRPG. I thought it'd be easier than it actually is, and it actually pulled on my desire to be a game designer when I was younger.
Mhm.
So like a lot of what made Black Coffin hard for me was that like I didn't want to go into like the in-depth of game design that I would normally want to if I would just make a video game. But because the story requires some, I wanted to flex a little bit. I wanted to flex my ability to, make a video game. So a lot of the I guess the situations being solved with the fantasy elements combined with like exploitive, like basically if you play a video game, the best way to play is exploit bugs as much as possible. So
Mhm.
that was like a good thing about like Black Coffin is that I didn't want just to have a character solve things by just throwing a fireball. I want him to solve things by exploiting um elements of the world around him.
Yeah, game glitches and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so dude is going on over there in Black Coffin. What did you write next?
So in the recesses of my memory, because I've been writing like off and on before I published Hotel of Madness. So in the recesses of my memory, I remember this one little story I wrote way back when called Siege Turtle, back when I was 20 years old, 19 actually, yeah. So back when I was 19, I still thought I was gonna be a game developer when I get older. Um, I wrote this little story called Siege Turtle, which is basically you take the Ninja Turtles and you give them guns.
And these are siege turtles.
Yes, the
Okay.
idea was that like you're playing a the original idea is that I wanted to make an RTS, but was animals instead of like tanks and soldiers,
What's an RTS?
a real time strategy game.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I wanted to make a strategy game, but I wanted to make it with like the Ninja Turtles versus like giant rabbits versus bugs and versus other animals instead of like tanks and whatever you have for your usual real time strategy game. So I kept writing these elaborate outlines for all these factions, and a friend of mine um, looked at it and was like, "William, you have a story here, not a video game." So I was like, "Oh, let me take your advice." So I started writing like the first chapter, I liked it. So I wrote the second chapter, I liked that too. And 16 chapters later, 16 like my lucky number.
Yeah, cool.
um, I was like, oh man, I may actually have a book. This is probably was going to be my longest one I've ever engaged in because it's kind of like a science fiction fantasy story. And hard drive crashed back when I was like 19. So hard drive crashed. I was so like despondent. I was just done. I didn't want to touch anything. I didn't want to write again for a while. Especially I didn't want to write that story because like a lot of like I feel like some of my best chapters were lost.
It hurts,
When the
don't it?
Yeah, it does. But I did at the time to email people chapters of my story. It's like, hey, what do you think of this? Hey, what do you think of that? So through some cyber sleuthing, I was able to recover about 9 of the 16 chapters I wrote.
Oh, cool.
Unfortunately, there's like this giant gap in the middle.
Yeah.
So in the middle of it was actually this giant gap. For whatever reason, I never sent it to anyone. Even though I'm pretty sure I did, but I just can't find it. So what ended up happening is I decided to go back to that idea because like this is what I used to do with Eric once in a while if I want to get excited about a project. And I used to do, I'll go back and I'll start reading it again. And if I like what I hear, I'm like, huh, there may be something here, even though I wrote this when I was still in college. And I was reading Siege Turtle, and it wasn't like it wasn't the early chapters that really impressed me, even though those were really still really good. It was the later chapters, the ones that I haven't actually put on Vella yet, so I'm not sure how people respond to that. But the later chapters are what really got me. I was like, oh wow, these are actually really good. Actually, this is a story kind of deserves to be told. So that's why in the middle of Black Coffin, I started releasing. Like a month later, I was like, you know what? This should be easy. All I gotta do is complete the 4 or 5 missing chapters and then make sure that the other ones are like readable to humans and the other ones after that are also readable to humans. And send it to Kate, and Kate would do her editing magic and make sure I haven't missed a duh or comma or something. And hey, I got something else on Villa. So
And you did.
yeah. So that's what's going on with the Siege Turtle. And actually the only story I have a review on. So I'm actually pretty happy about that one.
That's pretty cool. I thought reviews were there to stay, but one of my reviews got yanked right off.
I don't know what criteria they have. Because I know for like, I think because Vella, for lack of a better term, is kind of incestuous. Like a lot of authors are on there, as opposed to like the author to reader ratio is like authors,
right,
readers, authors, read. So it's like there's a lot of people authors recommending the books to other authors, and Amazon kind of wants to, even with like regular KU, they hunt down like they hunt down like say Author 1 post a review and Author 2 site, right?
Right.
And Author 2 post a review and Author 1 site. They see that as collusion. And
I didn't think I had any author reviews. I didn't. So I don't know, but I must have. It must have been an author review that I just didn't recognize the name.
Yeah.
And it must have been somebody that I reviewed. But boy, let me tell you, I'm careful. I only give out my reviews once every 6 weeks. And I'm very careful who I do it for. When I'm doing it for an author, I go to them and I say, listen, I'm going to review you. I don't ever want you reviewing me.
Gotcha. Yes, that is a genuine concern for Amazon, trying to keep some integrity in the
right.
in their platform. Sometimes they kind of don't care. Sometimes they do. So it's kind of weird and wonky how they enforce their rules. If they feel like one person is popping off and they're suddenly getting a bunch of reviews from people who also publish books, and it's like, oh, this guy's manipulating the system. As
Yeah.
opposed to if you do it to someone who doesn't really have much of a following, they don't really look at it as much. So who knows?
Interesting. Yeah. So now is Siege Turtle and Black Coffin, is that it for you?
There's a third thing on Villa.
A third one?
Yes.
Okay.
That one is the I changed the name of it. It's called The Shadow Over Christmas. And that one is a story that I wrote specifically as a sequel to A Hotel of Madness. And I decided to put it on Villa because I was like, you know what? This will be an interesting way to get beta readers. So
So did you have this out for Christmas?
the plan is to actually have this published around Christmas this year.
Oh, okay. But I was asking, did you have it out for Christmas 21?
Oh no. So
you
what I
didn't
ended
have this Vella. This one came out February or March or something.
yeah, February.
February. Okay. Okay. Very cool. And do you have any plans on making another one?
So after completing Black Coffin, and that was exhausting. I felt the relief off my shoulders when I felt like I was done. The next thing is to complete Siege Turtle, at least get to the chapters that I actually wrote when I was like a baby.
19, yeah.
Yeah. And I think there is one more in me, but I haven't figured out what genre I should judge. I don't want to do a horror anthology actually. Like go into like how creepy can I get in the shortest form possible. And I got inspired by doing so because again, Kate wanted to see me. It's not on Villa, so I'm not gonna push traffic in that direction. But Kate wanted me to how to say, she wanted me to mess up a fairy tale. Because she's a little bit of a fan of my style. So I was like, what fairy tale should I pick? And I decided to make a creepy version of Jack and the Beanstalk. And ever since writing that, I was like, you know what? Maybe if there's more in me, I can make other fairy tales into a weird, creepy facsimiles of
what they are currently.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with the Jack and the Beanstalk. All that whole story is sus, right? The whole thing.
The whole story is pretty sus, and I actually retold it in a very interesting and creepy way. If you're interested, just type the tale of Jack Nathaniel Stalk if you want to find that somewhere on the internet.
Jack Nathaniel Stock?
Yep, the tale of Jack Nathaniel Stalk.
Nice.
So eventually I'm going to transplant that to Villa, and probably with maybe one or two horror related fairy tales that I want to like reimagine. And I'm probably going to do that. Like that publishing schedule, that took a lot out of me. And if you read it, you'll see why. But that one, that was 5 hours straight of just obsessively writing this idea.
Mm-hmm.
And probably only summon that energy like once a month. So if I were to put it on Villa, it's probably going to be like a once a month format, and I got to decide the name of the anthology.
I see.
So it'll probably be like Weird Tales by William or something like that, and that will probably be the only thing left on my, that won't be on a pen name.
So you're not planning to like make writing your living?
So I would like to make writing my living, but I don't make enough money to do so yet. So it is basically my goal is to be as prolific as the people that I looked up to growing up writing. So the best way for me to do that, just write in different genres, see what I can, see how far I can go, work on my weaknesses, and pretty much push the envelope to what I can actually do. So after the death, I kind of joke with Kate that I will probably write like a romance novel. And
Well, those are certainly going. That's they're evergreen, man. They tend to go no matter what the weather is out there.
probably
So
under a pen name and see how that goes.
I know a couple of
So
dudes doing that. One of them's doing it very successfully, and his pen name is a woman's name.
so
And
that's kind of
yeah,
my wife has also encouraged me to write a romance novel. And she's like, oh my God, you should write one. And I'm like, it's like two central ideas for one. There's one idea where like me and her are escaping a zombie apocalypse, like
nice.
some type of weird paranormal romance. And then there's another one which I kind of am leaning towards, where the guy is dating this girl who's a vampire, but he doesn't notice that she's a vampire, and she has no
Nice.
plans on eating him. They're just dating, and
Yeah.
she's trying to like hide all the supernatural stuff because she actually likes him. She just doesn't think his mind can handle the fact that the supernatural exists.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of writing that. So it's an ongoing debate in my mind whether or not I should start on that or the other one.
Okay.
And I won't know until I write a first chapter. And if I
So
like it, I probably
you've
continue.
got plans, but they're on the
Oh, they're on the back burner. I really do want to complete Siege Turtle because I'm actually excited about that.
all right. All right. Well, we want to see you complete Siege Turtle too. So now then, another question I ask everybody.
Okay.
Shout out for a couple of your favorite Vellas that you read.
Oh, wow. Now this will take me a second because I have a list in my follows. So let's see here. One of my favorite there was someone who did like a weird like Lovecraft inspired story that I was really impressed by, like the first chapter of A Mild Case of Murder by Swados Nim. That was actually really good.
Ooh, A Mild Case of Murder.
There is, let's see here.
I like that.
No, not that one. I read that one. Yeah, let's see here. I have way too many in the follow-up page. That's the problem. I am interested in Haven, another light RPG story by Kate Sager. She's actually pretty good, even if oh my God, I hate her protagonist so much. I hate her protagonist. The story is good. I just hate the protagonist. It's just like a lowest concession of mine. It's like, I love your story. This your protagonist. I like to strangle, just put my the squeeze.
I haven't read Haven, and Kate Seeger's a good writer.
Let's see here.
You get one more.
I have one more. Oh God, I'm gonna have to pull out the stops. Let's see here. Oh, this is the one. This is the one that actually impressed me the most. The Case Files of Adelaide Kent. I'm not sure I said that right.
The Case Files of Adelaide Kent. Yes.
Yeah.
Who writes that?
By A.R.D. Clarke. Okay. And it's a gothic horror series that has a lot of like cosmic horror in it. And it's also written, actually this one, but I forget the other one. This one is written in a very like signature, let's say it reminds me of reading Dracula, like Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, it's kind of a high English style.
Yeah, but I don't appreciate it for the high English style. I feel like I appreciate it more for like the atmosphere and the sense of that beginning of one of those classic horror stories when you're going off to a creepy manor and it's your job to do so. And you're like, oh my
Yeah,
god, it's a
yeah,
creepy
yeah,
manor. I'm
yeah.
gonna show up there with my science and my can-do attitude, and then the horror is like, I'm gonna show up there with my fangs.
And scare the shit out of you.
Yes. So that one is actually a genuine favorite. I actually want to pop a review. Hopefully not get her in trouble. But she is legitimately one of the ones I look forward to reading. There's a couple of other ones that I read. And I do want to actually do, at least as an author who actually does like reading other people's like my big thing about writing is that one of my big motivators is that I don't really see a lot of stories that I would necessarily like to read a lot of the time. Like, oh, wow, let me find a good cosmic horror story. I don't
Have,
find that a lot.
have you now see there's starting to be like a group of horror writers in Vella.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a growing trend of horror writers. I like to
Yeah.
actually give them
Have you
help them
seen
give them a spotlight.
have you read any of Tirza M.M. Hawkins?
I have not read him
Now
yet.
see, I call her Stevetta King.
Ooh,
Okay. Now she doesn't quite barf up the word salad the way that he does. Okay. Because in Stephen King's, you have to read a while before you get to the meat, and it
yeah.
makes you crazy, and you're sitting there. But in Tirza's, you get to the meat right away.
Wait.
And she's got one. Now, the one I love of hers is called Spider Sight. And
I
what
have saw that
and what
a
is
couple
so
times.
astonishing about this one, William, is something that will interest you as well, because you have a similar sitch going on. She wrote that story when she was 12.
Ooh,
Okay. And so basically, she co-wrote with her younger self by pulling it out,
of the basement.
reworking it, right? But see, the main character is a 6-year-old kid. So, at 12, she had a much better bead on how a 6-year-old would act than an adult does. And it's magic, kid. It made magic. It gives me goosebumps just talking about it. Yeah.
Okay, Spider Sight.
Spider Sight by Tirza, Tirzah M.M. Hawkins. She's got 2 middle names. That's her real name. She's got 2 middle names. So, yeah.
Hmm.
So some people think it's just for affect, and no, it's not. Those her names are actually, I forget what they are. It's like Madeline and Marigold or something like that.
I
But
am a sucker for a good horror story. Actually, a friend of mine, I hope that she publishes through soon, is that she was in like a group chat one day and she was like, some guy was like, oh, girls can't write no horror. I was like, oh, that's bullshit. Let me see what you wrote. And I actually read it. And it's about this guy who transformed into a mosasaur and eats people. And I was like, oh, this
so what?
transformed into a giant alligator and eats people, like a giant prehistoric alligator
Oh,
and eats people. I was like, this is a good story.
yeah, now that's a shifter that's worth shifting to something right there.
Yeah,
I had to get told, William, I had to get educated by another writer I had on this channel who finally told me and explained what the whole shifter thing is. I didn't
okay.
understand it. Not at all. See, to me, a shifter, it's one of the big tropes out there. Okay. And tons of
Yeah.
people are writing to it. To me, a shifter was somebody who was gifted that could shift into any animal form. We saw it in George R.R. Martin's, right? Any animal form. He could become a raven. He could become a dog. He could become a whatever the fuck he wanted to become, right?
Yeah.
But it had nothing to do with werewolves, vampires, demons, had nothing to do with that shit. And but that's the trope. Okay, that's what it means. It means somebody who can shift into something else. Well, and they only shift into one thing. So they can shift into a dragon, they can shift into a demon, they can shift into a gator, right?
Yeah.
But that's it. Screw
mean,
that.
I
wanna
have,
shift into anything. I want to be able to shift into anything.
as someone who has been following this type of stuff for a while, I know why. So the reason why people like the shifter genre is mostly because it's like a potential for like romance in there, as opposed to it's more of a playing on when J.R.R. Martin does it. He's more playing on the shamanistic / like Native American aspects
Sure.
of like being able to basically transpose your mind into other animals and see how they see and experience life the way they experience. And there's also a horror version of the shifter stories where basically the shifter is an inhuman creature who that has to be wary of, who can't basically differentiate between being the animal versus being the human.
Okay.
No one really plays on that, but it's definitely a thing.
You know what they're playing on? I'll tell you what they're playing on. God damn it, William. I don't think you're even old enough to hear this. But they're playing on the same kind of shit that
Go ahead.
they're playing on the same kind of emotion people who want to go to Juarez and watch a donkey show play.
Oh my god. So I just watched, this is funny thing. I watched this
eyes,
hilarious TikTok. I used to wear glasses. I still have the I watched this hilarious TikTok where this girl who pretends to be Bella from Beauty and the Beast, right?
Oh God.
And she walks in on Beast, but he's now transformed as regular human. And she's like, "What happened to my prince?" He's like, "I'm right here." And she's like, "No, you're not it. What happened to the Beast? The Beast was like 6'7". You're like 5'7". He's like, "No, I'm like 5'8". Like, no, for real. Like, what happened to the Beast? I wanted to be ravaged, not plucked."
Yeah.
It's like I was hoping for something from Wettapad. This is not it, right? And he's like, but I'm human now, so just love me the way. Like, no, I wanted to be dominated.
Right. So you can rest assured that if this gal chokes out a shifter, that's the emotion I'm gonna be playing on. So suckers want to go to Juarez.
Oh my god, it's funny because it's like, as someone who's been like following the supernatural teen romance stuff from a distance, I saw the shift coming and I'm like, oh man.
I couldn't believe
these werewolves are the sex symbols. What happens to this is like the monster werewolves? Like, no, we don't want that no more. We want the sexy werewolves with the abs and the six pack and the steely blue eyes. Those steely brown eyes don't have steely blue eyes. That's vampires.
They get raunchy too.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They get super, super raunchy. And if you don't give them the raunchy they're looking for, they'll beat up on you.
Oh, like they have very specific raunchies
beat up
too.
On your ass. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like,
God, you know, we've been chatting here for damn near an hour. And so I've got your 3 shout outs. Okay. But I have not heard yet. Here's what I do. Everybody that's on my show, I sprinkle magic fairy dust. And for just a few minutes, you get to control Vella. And tell me what you would do to improve the platform. Keep it down to 2. Anymore's just bitching.
All right. Oh, wow. I thought about this for a while and I feel like there's there's 2 things to improve the platform. One of them would be I feel like, considering like how Amazon is, I feel like Vella would actually be well served by having like an audio feature. I feel like either letting people upload their own audio or having like AI assisted audio. Like,
yeah, like Radish.
Yeah.
Where you punch a button and it just reads a story to you. And the AI voice is getting pretty good. I mean, it can't top an actor's voice or anything.
No, there's no inflection or nothing like that. But like,
it's good enough. Like
Yeah,
if you need it for being in the car, you're desperate to finish this, you're trying to get to work, or you're trying to get the dishes done. It'd be a nice feature. It really would.
it would also improve people. Actually, it would bring in more people who are more interested in reading.
I think
So
so too. I think so too.
yeah,
All
so
right.
that's definitely a
What's the
feature.
second one, Jeannie?
Oh man, there's still a second one. Oh, how to improve the experience for everyone. I feel like when you review something, there should be an option that tells you exactly how many chapters that person read before they reviewed it. And you should be allowed to hit multiple reviews if you've read different parts of the story. So instead of saying I just published a review and I have to manually type in, oh, I just read up to chapter 10. This is my opinion. There should be a way to say, hey, I read up to chapter 1. This has this plot element, blah blah blah, and it's how I feel like for this. And then like you come back to it like a month later, like, oh yeah, I read chapters 2 through 5. This is how I feel about it right now. And I can't wait, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that would improve both like author engagement and reader engagement. Because like in one, I feel like if serialized story is the best aspect of it, I feel like the best marketing for a writer is more writing. So the more you encourage people to engage, and the more you encourage people to be able to critique something and be accurate and concise with their critique. And then not everyone's gonna release some of that, but I'm saying just have some automated tools that are easy to do because Amazon knows how many chapters you read, right? They keep that data
Yeah, I
on their
was just
stuff.
thinking, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying, where you have a review that you can update, but by God, I think it'd be a great idea not to allow a review unless you've unlocked about 10 chapters.
I mean, I don't just that's just me. That's just something that like I feel like,
That would be cool.
or at least like maybe not a review system, maybe like a comment system.
Yeah. And have you seen the what's called the polls that are at the end of the episodes now?
Yeah, that's to encourage like reader engagement, but I don't think it. I think it's pretty shallow. I don't
Yeah,
think it's
but
not as in. I don't think that's how you build a like. Ideally, you should come away from the villa with like fans.
yeah. My lit RPG out there, I stuck another chapter of my lit RPG up and I did that, but I wasn't really story related. I was just like, what's your favorite band? And I gave 4 different ones,
Yeah,
just just for fun, just give them something to do. Cause I think engagement, no matter what level it's on, readers want to be engaged.
yeah,
People want to be heard, William.
yeah.
They want their opinions seen,
I'm a big favor of that. I really believe that the more you allow people like an open dialogue with the writer that you're engaging with, because it's one of the things I've learned in the course of this, I guess this 2 year writing career,
this odyssey here.
yeah, is it's a big ask to ask people to read stuff.
It is.
It is a big ask to get people to sit down and be like, hey, I want this, or even to even put it on the ears, like, hey, the audio version, let me listen
Much
to
more
it.
than you thought.
It's a big ask. I mean, I've always known it is, but it's kind of it becomes more readily apparent. Like the more you do it, the more you try to put yourself out there, the more you're trying to make yourself available, make sure you try to make yourself, pay money for like ads or whatever. It becomes more apparent that like, hey, do you want to take the time to read my stuff? Especially in many cases, a lot of these villas, some people don't get their stuff edited. Some people, it's basically a rough draft that they put out there, which is fine. That's what these type of formats are encouraged you to do. This is basically the same thing as say fan fiction sites, which were the original serialized formatting sites where people just, you have kids who will post their Harry Potter fan fictions or their Teen Wolf fan fictions or whatever fan fictions or Star Wars fan fictions, and they will just, they'll put it out there and see what people like. So,
The most famous piece of fan fiction, Twilight fan
yep,
fiction, became 50 Shades of Grey.
yep. I'm pretty sure Twilight is probably a fan fiction or something else.
You might find it interesting to know that serialized fiction is much, much older than this. Charles Dickens wrote serialized fiction
Huh.
in papers that came out weekly.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, and so did Edgar Allan Poe. All these
Oh
guys
yeah, all
wrote
the old school
serialized
guys.
fiction because that's what paid.
Yeah.
That's what people had to read for entertainment were these newspapers, and there were tons of them, and I can't remember. There's one that was really famous, Harper's Weekly, I think, that would carry these stories. So it was and novellas, the kind you like to write, man, those were called dime novels, and people wrote those suckers like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah.
And even in my memory, from the late 70s, early 80s, reading romance novels to get the formula down, I had stacks of those suckers that I had read through, to get that formula down.
Oh, my mom had like a whole bookcases dedicated to romance novels. I read a couple of them. I ain't gonna lie.
I don't have them anymore. I mean, I used to, and but we would just chew through them like there was no tomorrow. Now we have, everything's online.
Yeah.
But no, serialized fiction is very old, very old. And I think it's really cool too. And for audio
Definitely
books,
appreciate it a lot more now than I did when I was younger.
what's even fun is to go out. They've got apps for your phone where you can go listen to the old radio shows that they used to do.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. And they're fun to listen to. Some of them are really good. Some of them do leave you, like you're on the edge of your seat. And they did horror like that a lot.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, wasn't it always fun to have, go to, I don't know, be outside at night and one of the kids decides they're going to tell a scary story and,
I was one of those kids.
Yeah, you were the kid. Awesome.
Unfortunately, so this is how this started. So when I was growing up, we had these legends about the man in the woods. So
yeah,
I used to walk home from school every day. And that's like we had to cross the woods where the legend was. And those are it was only like a couple of feet. Like it was like basically the size of a football field between when you enter the woods from the back of school and when you exit back out into civilization again.
Yeah.
And those are probably the creepiest trek I've ever done. And I remember sometimes we'll hear like these weird noises. We would start like taking off because it was like it was fun. And I used to tell stories about the guy who we thought lived in the woods, like this type of weird slender man like creature.
Yes.
And we used to tell stories about him all the time. I used to be like the main ringlinger about those stories.
Isn't that great? I really love those days. And I loved being a kid where, me and my girlfriend, we'd pick out a house and we would decide it was haunted.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it was vacant, so we'd go look in the windows and stuff. We wouldn't vandalize anything, but we'd go look in the windows and peek around and whatnot. Just great fun for a kid,
When you're a kid, I used to believe definitely houses were haunted. Poltergeist was probably one of the hardest movies for me to watch when I was a kid.
Oh my God.
If you generally believe that the weird noises you heard from your house means your house is haunted, Poltergeist is like the worst movie you can watch. And I love Poltergeist.
You up, man.
I love Poltergeist, but that movie was rough.
It was rough, and dude, you want to talk about rougher? Go ahead and read what happened to the cast of that thing.
Oh no. Is that haunted?
Oh my God, yes. The little girl is dead, long dead.
Oh no, I gotta read up on this now. Now you got me all messed up.
She died as a child. She didn't grow up.
Oh no.
Snap, right? And there was a bunch of shit. It wasn't just her. She was like the icing, the pinnacle of it that happened. But bad things happened to a lot of the people on the Poltergeist thing.
I feel like every once in a while, when you make something a little too on the nose, it kind of looks back at you. That's what I feel like.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's like
that's
a
the
little
scary
too
part.
close to something, something, you know.
Yeah.
You better watch out. You better watch
Ooh.
yourself.
You know what? I'm like one of those. I'm more of a funny horror guy than a horror guy. Like I don't think myself as scary so much as I'm funny and sarcastic, and I just happen to have like horrific slash violent situations that happen around the characters. I did have like even in like a Hotel of Madness, there's like this one basic fear of sea creatures that I have, and I kind of implemented that in that book, and then that was probably the closest I've come to being like truly horrific. And then Shadow over Christmas, it goes into a lot of historical storytelling, where it's like I'll take you back to like the time of the Romans and describe certain things, and that's pretty much, I guess, that close as I come to like traditional classic. Oh my god, just don't touch that horror. But I don't know. That's just me. I hope I never get that close because I got a house and 2 dogs. I don't want to be scared of my own house.
But as for your Lawless interview, the last thing I ask you is, because in the description for your video, I will put everything you've ever written. There'll be a link. And then after that will be a link to your shout outs. So what do you want to say to the folks that are clicking on your link, have watched your video and are clicking on your link?
Oh man. I hope you like it. I pretty much write this as a way to, I guess, ninja more stuff I like into the universe. So my hope is that by writing things that other people like, they are inspired to write things that I like, so I have more things to read. That's the plan. So hopefully you guys fall for that plan, and I get a chance to look you up and see what you read, see what you make yourself.
Excellent. Okay, everybody, this has been another Lawless interview. This is William Tchatchou, author of Black Coffin, and hang on, I have to turn the page. This is a journal that I got. Most of the pages mostly they're like cloth. Anyway,
Ooh, I like the
so
cover.
we have Siege Turtle, and we have The Shadow over Christmas, and of course the starter is Black Coffin. This is William Tchatchou, and it's been fun getting to know you.
Oh, thank
See
you.
you next time.